You're most welcome back to Matchbook's Weekend Football Podcast. Well, we've got some banging fixtures in the Premier League this weekend, and to preview that aforementioned, we'll get to it. Everyone knows which one it is Mr. Adrian Clarke, the top right of your screen. Good afternoon, Adrian. How are you?
Good afternoon. Yeah, late kickoff today, but
yes.
Yeah, hopefully it's worth the wait because some great games. Great games to talk about.
Really good games. Mark O'Hare is also with us. Adrian, just to you first. Good bounce back week last weekend on the EFL and Premier League. You guys did okay too. You know, that Chelsea and under 3.5 one, that comes up again and again and again. But your best bet was in the Championship, Fulham and Reading. And it was Reading over 2.5 goals. It was Reading that surprisingly did the heavy lifting in that game.
Well, it's the beauty, isn't it, of backing over 2.5 goals, is that the actual result is irrelevant, isn't it, as long as the goals are scored. And look, in my head, I pictured Fulham winning that game 3-1, 4-2, 4-1, something like that. And it turned out very differently, but we got the win. So that's all that matters.
Mark O'Hare is Norwegian Elitserien. I can't even pronounce it. Norwegian League BTTS double. And interesting enough, insights.matchbook.com, you've already posted your column on Thursday morning. And it's more or less very similar, guys. But Norway just equals goals this season and last season. And season
yeah. It's definitely in their nature to play attacking football up in Scandinavia and particularly in Norway. So, it paid out nicely last weekend. And there's a similar sort of vibe and theme about this weekend's selections in Norway, which are already up on Insights, and some really nice, tasty prices to take advantage of there as well. I would say, my best bet went down in Scotland with Celtic losing to Livingston. Didn't see that coming. But I got a couple of narky tweets. But what I would say is we absolutely smashed the closing price there, and I think that's the end of the game. If we're back in bigger prices than what they're finishing and what they're going off at, then happy days. The result is almost out of your hands, really. So I'll continue to try and do that and sort of pinpoint prices where I think there's value to be had, and hopefully the betting gods do their justice in the long term.
And I would suggest in Arky Commons, some of those people may not have been in touch the week before when you were banging out all the other winners, but it just seems to be that way sometimes.
Nature of the beast. Yeah.
Nature of the beast. You never hear them when they're winning, but you do hear about them when you're losing. All right, but look, it's all fair in love and war and all that. Speaking of insights.matchbook.com, check it out each weekend. Adrian has a piece in the EFL bonus selections. Mark has obviously got his piece already up there on Thursday morning. And also we'll have a bet recap of all of these bets throughout the show there, because I know sometimes we kind of rattle through them fairly quick and you might not get them. Also, guys, if you are watching us today on YouTube, please put the thumbs up and click subscribe. It does help our algorithms and gets our content out to a wider audience. And also, if you're listening to us on the podcast today and this weekend, please leave us a favorable review if you are enjoying the content. And I suppose you wouldn't be listening to it if you weren't. All right, guys, only one place we can start. Saturday early kickoff at Stamford Bridge. It is going to be a good one. Adrian Clarke, come to you first ever. Let's take a look at the betting for Chelsea and Manchester City. First up here, you can back Chelsea at 2.84. Manchester City at 2.82. The throw available 3.3. The main handicap is obviously with this market so close together, it's more or less a pick'em. It's a pick'em here as well on the draw no bet market, which is played on site at matchbook.com at 0.0. So do not let that confuse you. If it's a draw, you get your money back on those. And 2.25 is the total. And Adrian Clarke, surprisingly enough, I would have thought it's 1.84 over 2.25, but it's also odds against the 2.06 on the under. I would have kind of put them the other way. You in agreement on this?
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, look, they both played only 5 games each. They've only conceded 1 goal each. So where are the goals coming from here?
Yeah, look, they've got goal scorers, both teams. They're outstanding sides, aren't they? But they're both very difficult to break down. Manchester City have got the best defensive stats by quite some distance, actually, in the Premier League. They're not facing many shots at all. Really controlled the tough games since their defeat at Spurs, which was unlucky, really, on reflection. They didn't really deserve to lose that game. No, they've been very, very good since then. City on the road against the big boys, the games are normally quite tight. Obviously, we remember them spanking Chelsea 3-1 last year. Remember the Liverpool game, crazy game. They're absolutely brilliant, weren't they? But 5 of the 7, they were the only 2. 5 of the 7 away games against the top 8 had 2.5 goals or less. So they were pretty close games away from home, low scoring. This season, of course, 1-0 at Spurs, 1-0 at Leicester, that fell in their favour. So the pattern tells you that City on the road to the tougher teams are involved in tight games. So yeah, that I think is one reason to definitely look towards the unders. And Chelsea, I mean, we've been over it so many times, haven't we, in terms of backing them with the unders. Here, I'm less sure on backing Chelsea. They've been outstanding away from home against the very elite teams, haven't they? But at Stamford Bridge, they've actually not played very many times against their rivals since Tuchel came. So at Stamford Bridge, they've won 1 of 3 against what you call the Big Seven. I've chucking Leicester into the mix there. So one of there's 2 of the 3 that they didn't win. Lost, of course, to Arsenal. I think they drew with Manchester United 0-0. So there's that little slight question mark over Chelsea at home to the big boys. What are they really like? We certainly haven't seen them cut loose and hammer someone and hammer an immediate rival at home. So look, everything for me is pointing towards low goals. Also, you've got to think about the context of the season, early season. No one wants to lose. No one wants to give 3 points to what's likely to be the closest rivals for the title. So for me, it's going to be cagey. I just hope, from City's point of view, that Pep doesn't fiddle around with it. He's gone with 3 completely different tactical game plans.
Well, what about that? It is a bit narrative-y, right? But do you put any stock in the fact that Tuchel does have a good record against them in this spot?
Well, you have to. It has to give them Chelsea the edge. 3 1-0 win. No, not 3 1-0s, but 3 narrow wins.
Yeah,
counts for something. But I blame Pep for in part for those defeats, because he messed around with a system. They were the best team in England last season. You know, they won the league. Yet he changed the way they played in all 3 games, and he changed them differently in all 3 games. This season, they're top of the metrics in pretty much everything. If he goes with 4-3-3, the same kind of team that he's been putting out, let's just see what happens. I think they've got a good chance of picking up at least a draw Manchester City in the game. My pick would be under 2.25. I think to get that odds against is fantastic. You could even be a bit daring and go under 1.5. So that's 0-0, 1-0, either way, 3.3. That's a little tempter for me. But yeah, I'll play it safer and go under 2.25.
Flip side there, AC, is that under 2.5 is available at 1.8 currently. Mark, I think that might be the way in for you in terms of it. If you're in a similar mindset to Adrian here of a low scoring affair.
Yeah, I am for all the reasons Adrian suggested as well. A bit of a shame, I think, this game's taking place on match day 6 of the season because it is so early. We've talked about many times now, particularly between the Liverpool-Chelsea game, that these teams know that, you know, losing points to your title rivals is almost a death wish at this stage of the season. You're playing catch-up. City have already dropped points early doors this season. Do they want to drop any more? I know people are saying they've both got really big Champions League games next midweek, which they'll have an eye on. I don't agree with that. I think they'll have full focus on this match. And, you know, look at the groups. They're going to get through those Champions League groups, whatever happens next midweek. So full focus is on this game. And I think the draw, therefore, is a huge runner at 3.3. Definitely appeals to me out of the 1x2 markets there. And with that in mind, under 2.5 goals has to be a play as well, because you are getting those 1-0 wins for either team, a 2-0 win for either team on side, as well as the 0-0 and the 1-1. And I think at 1.8, that's an absolutely banging price, to be honest, for such a big game with so much at stake. In terms of the odds on offer, Man City are just about favourites here. It's very much touch and go, pretty much a pick 'em. But if City do go off as outsiders, I believe it's the first time they'll be outsiders in a Premier League game for almost 4 seasons, which is quite something. It kind of goes to show the strength of Chelsea under Tuchel to close that gap, if you like. City were odds on favourites in that Champions League final, and you can see the market still does rate City, not just in the price they are at Stamford Bridge, but also the prices both teams went off at Spurs. So City were 1.6 on match day 1. Chelsea weren't far off even money at Spurs last week. So there's still, obviously, the market agrees that City should be the team to beat here. However, I do think there's a few issues amongst that team right now, which is, you know, I think Chelsea are capable of picking up at least a point here, particularly because of City's, not the state of mind, because I think they can kind of bounce back into form, but the Southampton performance was poor. But you look at the players who are either major doubts or missing this weekend, and there's concern there for me. Stones, Laporte, Rodri and Zinchenko, either all out, missing, or major doubts. Gundogan as well. So, and then you've got Kevin De Bruyne and Foden, who aren't 100% since returning from injury. I don't think we've seen the best from either of those. Adrian mentioned City's fact that there can be quite low scoring away against the big teams. If you look at the last 3 seasons, they've only won, I think, 7 of 18 trips to the top 7 as well. So they do tend to kind of, well, I guess it's perhaps meddling as well with the team, which hasn't helped. But yeah, I mean, there's a few angles I wanted to get on side here. One was Chelsea, one was opposed goals, and I looked at Chelsea plus a quarter. I don't think we're going to get 166 or 170, unfortunately. We can get 180 on under 2.5 goals, which I think is a bet, and the draw was the other one. But I think just backing unders is the way forward, because it's not going to be 2-2, it's not going to be 3-3. So if it is going to be a draw, we're still getting paid out back in the unders.
Yeah, of course, matchbook.com. No, you could actually go to draw on under 2.5 goals as well. But I think having a small bet on the draw 3.3 and under 2.5 at 1.8, I think is just kind of a clever strategy into this one. Adrian, Clarke, if I gave you 10-1 on a 0-all draw, would you take it? Might not get it.
I probably would. Yeah, it's. I think it's a runner. Now let's go under 2.5. I was being a bit daring there, but really the point that I was making is that I think this is likely to be decided by a goal, and at most it'll be 1-1 or 2-0 either way. So yeah, under 2.5 is good.
Yeah, 0-all is 10.5 currently a matchbook, just as a point of reference. But there is just so much attacking talent on the field that it's a tough 90 minutes to be sweating out when you have a lot of attacking prowess. All right, so let's do the draw 3.3 under 2.5 at 1.8, and let's move on to Manchester United. We got them right last week. It was a pretty nervous one, over 2.5 in United to win. Of course, it was never in doubt at any stage, of course, in that game. But let's take
should have been wrapped up much sooner, shouldn't it? If those should have been. I mean, what was going on with the VAR? I mean, they were nailed on penalties, weren't they? Come on.
A lot of people would say
it was.
A lot of people would say that United got a fair share of them last season, and some of them have to come back at some stage and fight back. But let's take a look at the betting at Old Trafford. Again, this game kicks off at the same time as well on Saturday. This is an interesting one. United at 1.42, Villa 8.8 to draw 5.3. Villa getting 1.25 start goal handicap here at 2.04. That appears inside of matchbook.com at 1.0/1.5. And a flat 3 is the total, slightly shaded towards the under at 1.88. Mark, is it a wash or rinse repeat on United over 2.5? Because I've already seen your notes, and I think that's the way you're thinking.
It is. If either of you know why this game's kicking off at the same time at 12:30, then bizarre. I don't really understand that. I'm presuming
that has to be it. I didn't look into it, but there must be something on in Manchester City Centre, maybe at 4 or 5 o'clock or something. But if you're watching us now live, let us know, because we don't.
Yeah, I mean, goals were, I thought, the bet at West Ham last week, and I think goals are definitely the way to go again this time around. United probably a little unlucky with the goal that they conceded last weekend, but now that's still just 1 clean sheet in 7 Premier League, Champions League, or League Cup games so far this season. And I know they're not giving away masses of major clear-cut opportunities, but they are giving away goals and opportunities to teams. Whereas going forward, I don't think the quality they have at their disposal is unquestionable, really. And I think last weekend, 17 shots, 10 on target, 12 in the box. The solid XG figure, was pretty decent. So they'll go back to Old Trafford and they'll be confident, winning 4-1 and 5-1 in the Premier League so far this season at home. I really wouldn't put it past United being able to cover this line themselves, just because the ability they have in the final third and the players they can bring off the bench as well. But I do like Aston Villa. I think they're more than capable of getting on the score sheet. We saw them cause problems to Chelsea, who we probably rate as one of the best defences in the league, if not the best. The 3-0 wasn't a fair reflection on their performance that day. I think last weekend was a bit of a weird one against Everton. I know they won 3-0, and an amazing cameo from Leon Bailey, but it's a strange game. Not a huge amount happened outside of that sort of 30 minutes, and Everton were missing 4 key players as well. Issues for Villa really coming into this weekend. We don't know at the moment whether McGinn, Bailey, Cash or Target are going to be fit and available. Kind of want at least a couple of those, particularly McGinn, to be available. But even still, I think they've got the players that can hurt United and can get on the score sheet. But I think getting a pro-United side, a pro United bet on side is absolutely fair enough. Going down the same route of United to win and over 2.5 goals is fine. I also like over 2 3/4 goals. I do expect goals. As I said, Villa have scored in 17 of 21 away trips since the start of last season. Now 57% of those games featured 3 or more goals. Look at United. Both teams to score has been the right bet in 14 of those 21 home Premier League games during the same sample. 67% of those games featured over 2.5 goals, and pretty much bang on half featured 4 or more goals as well. The head-to-heads last season were 2-1 and 3-1 to United. Villa gave United good games in both of them, actually, very open. I think 11 of United's last 13 have featured over 2.5 goals, and they've been averaging 4 goals per game over that period as well at Old Trafford in the Premier League. So, yeah, I mean, I just think this game is going to feature plenty of goals, and I think if you can get United on side alongside that, then absolutely get on with it. Because I'm not going to say as good as Villa have been, I still think they're finding their feet since Grealish, but I think there are signs that they are finding a system which works for them. Their games have actually been quite low in terms of goal scoring opportunities and XG and shots, etc. But I think going into Old Trafford is a different kettle of fish. So I think this will be quite open.
You mentioned Leon Bailey there, and just thinking back to his career, Leverkusen, frustrating player on his day. He is absolutely outstanding, but he can just go missing as well. Like you said, there are those injury doubts there. Adrian Clarke, I think, are in a very similar train of thought on this one.
I think you've got to be. Yeah, I think when you're looking to analyse this game, it does scream goal opportunities. Much will depend from Villa's angle on those sort of doubts. If most of those come through, then I'd definitely give them a good shot of scoring at least once. Remember, I think they'll play 2 up front, Danny Ings and Ollie Watkins, and that will be, it'll pose questions for Maguire, for Varane, and for the attacking fullback. So that's something to think about. They're quite bold, I think, really. Man United involved in so many games where both teams score, aren't they? They've had the most last season. Lots of their home games, 4 out of 5 this season. 4 of their 5 matches this season have both teams scored as well. So for me, I was going to go in on the both teams to score angle, I think, which is 1.81. I can absolutely see that happening. But again, I also believe Man United will win the game. So it'll be 2-1, 3-1, 3-2. So United over 2.5 is perfectly fine with me. That's around even money, isn't it? Worked last week. I could see it working against another team in claret and blue this weekend as well. So happy to jump on that one.
So Mark showed us over 2 3/4 of 1.8. Adrian says United to win and over 2.5. So okay, guys, one of you is going to have to make the decision on this. Who's going to let the other one have our selection in this one?
United to win and over 2.5 goals.
Yeah. Great stuff. All right. Wash, rinse, and repeat of last week again. All right. Yeah. It's a bit like the Chelsea and under 3.5. Yeah. Somebody United and over 2.5 could be the way forward for us in these ones. Let's just take a very quick break here to tell you guys about the sign up offer we have at matchbook.com and give the guys a chance to catch their breath. And Adrian Clarke to have a lovely drink of Ribena, I think is what it is at the moment. So it's a pretty decent offer. Bet 10, get 15. When you're signing up, and I just want to refer to a term that is more used in American sports, closing line value. If you're looking at the guys' selections on Thursday, which obviously I do because I'm putting them up on insights.matchbook.com, but then I look on Saturday and some of these prices have been absolutely blown off the board. So very much bet early. These prices that we quote are very much at matchbook.com at the time of the recording. And if you use bonus code INSIGHTS15 when signing up, that's INSIGHTS15, you'll get a 15 quid free bet after you place a 10 one. So not bad at all. So it's even more than double. All right, let's get on to it, guys. Next game we're covering, Adrian, I can only come to you for this one, obviously. North London Derby. Are you going to be there, Adrian?
I'm there, yeah. Well, I was about to say I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not really. I never do.
You're going to be very confident. Look, the market is saying that Arsenal are the favourites here, so there shouldn't be any major issue. 2.32, you can back the Gunners. Tottenham 3.5, the draw available at 3.4. Tottenham getting a quarter of a goal start on the Asian handicap of 1.92. Over 2.5 is the total, and it's slightly shaded towards the under at 1.85. And Adrian, the 169th edition of this rivalry. Of course, Arsenal won the last fixture last season, but they haven't won successive ties in 7 years against Tottenham. I don't think you've a major opinion on who's going to win, who's going to lose a draw, but I do think you like a goals angle.
Yeah, look, I think, I get why Arsenal would be marginal favourites. They're on home turf. Spurs have a pretty rotten record, really, at Emirates Stadium. So if anyone's going to win it, I would expect it to be the Gunners. But I just look at these two teams and see teams that are very much a work in progress. I don't see much fluency going forward at all. Arsenal sort of ground out the win against Burnley. Some nice moves in that game, but the goal came from a direct free kick. They didn't really carve out golden opportunities. It wasn't a match where they missed a hatful of easy ones. And that's been the story really throughout the campaign. As a creative force, there's a lot more to come from Arsenal. They're not there yet, is what I'm saying. And I think when you look at Tottenham, you could probably say the same. They looked dynamite, didn't they, on the opening day with the all-pace attack up top. But Kane's come back in, the dynamics changed, and Nuno, from the outside looking in, doesn't really seem to know what to do with it. I mean, I thought it was really odd last week that Kane was playing sort of attacking midfield with Son up front in a Christmas tree formation. That was... just odd. I think Harry Kane is a striker.
Can I ask you, Nuno? And this is basically look. I can't really remember when he took over at Wolves, but there was so much hype, and obviously they did so well, and he brought them up from the Championship. Have teams just figured them out? Have other coaches just figured them out?
I think with Wolves in the Championship, I watched them in the Championship. They were a brilliant team, but it was. I think the basis of Nuno teams is great shape, organisation, use the width of the pitch with those wing backs, but they close off spaces and they make. You remember when Wolves came up to the Premier League, had such a good record against the best teams, and that was because they're very good at blocking up spaces. He drills the team superbly. What I think that his teams lacked was a bit of spontaneity. It was quite programmable football, a little bit like Arteta at Arsenal to some degree, where you can almost see the pictures of the moves before they've even happened. More off the cuffness, I think, would be welcome by Spurs fans. That's just my view. Spurs have had the fewest open play shots so far in the Premier League, just 29. So that tells you a real story, doesn't it? And as I said, Arsenal not been creating loads at the back, even though Spurs have lost the last 2-3-0, and that was poor on both occasions. I think we saw enough in the early games to suggest that they'll be well organised with the back four. And in midfield, they've got workhorses rather than creators. So there's no reason why they shouldn't be coming to this game solid. And as for Arsenal, that back four, the new look back four, Tomiyasu, White, Gabriel, Tierney, with Ramsdale in behind, I like it. It's not world class. It's not maybe top four level, but it's an improvement. And I think that they are capable of closing or limiting Spurs' efforts on goal. So for me, it's unders, has to be unders. Traditionally, this game has been quite high scoring, or this derby has been high scoring, but I don't see it in this one. I think this is an under 2.5 game. And look, I always think the draw is a runner as well in this fixture. So that's one to consider.
Mark O'Hare, in agreement on this one?
I am, yes. The market likes Arsenal this week, very much so, actually. There's been money for them all week, and I can see why, because they were given a huge amount of grief after those first three games, whereas, they have still to play Chelsea and Man City in those first three games and had half a team out for the Brentford match, whereas Tottenham have been awful to follow and don't seem to be getting quite so much grief for their performances. I know they've got 3 more points on the board and results are everything, but they have been pretty dour. They have been very unadventurous, and I'm worried for them, actually. If you look at sort of expected points based off pre-match odds, both teams are pretty much faring just below expectations. But Spurs, in terms of what they're actually producing on the field, have been very, very, very poor. And Adrian mentioned a few of the stats there. Only Norwich have had a lower non-penalty XG, and only Norwich have had fewer shots in the box. Norwich have had to play Liverpool and Man City, and they're a newly promoted team. So, what more can you really expect from them? Spurs have been, pretty unadventurous. And I think Arsenal, for me, there's been some green shoots there in the last couple of weeks. Take the results completely out of the equation, but just having that 11, Adrian again talked about the defence there, just having that defence there, just having Ødegaard's ability to win tight matches, having Partey in there at defensive midfield, having a fit Smith Rowe playing, it makes a difference. Aubameyang's now playing consistently, so I can only see Arsenal going up as the season progresses. Maybe not towards top 4 or anything like that, but I've got more hope that Arsenal are trending in the right direction than Spurs right now. And you mentioned the midfield. I had a joke with a friend yesterday that I'd rather have QPR's midfield than Spurs midfield. And I was being facetious, but there's an element of truth there. Like, it's so ponderous and so unadventurous. I just think, Arsenal do tend to get results in this fixture. They were 2.5 or bigger in the last 4 home league games against Tottenham. And I think they've taken 10 points from those 4 games. So they've been considered kind of at their lowest ebb really in this fixture in the last 4 times it's been played, and they've performed. So, but at the same point, they're just not appealing at 2.3. So unders has to be the way forward. Kane's not firing. Spurs have scored only 3 goals in 5 games. Interestingly as well, put these 2 teams 10 Premier League games together so far this season. I think only one of them, or none of them actually, no, one of them has featured both teams scoring, which is quite interesting too. So, gone are the days this was a 3-3 thriller or a 2-3 or a 4-3. I'm happy to take the unders all day as well.
Very quickly, Sally, on Arsenal, on Thomas Partey, really impressive last weekend against Burnley. Was good off the bench against Norwich. He is huge for Arsenal. Absolutely colossal influence on the side. In the last game, he was basically the only central midfielder, with Ødegaard and Smith Rowe sort of playing either side, sort of Manchester City style, 2 attacking midfield 8s. And he held it together easily, dropped in as a 3rd centre-back on occasion. Will Arteta do that in this game? Or will he go back to a more standard midfield, maybe put in a Sambi Lokonga alongside him potentially? I think it'll be interesting. The team selection will tell you how confident or not Mikel Arteta is in his side to contain Spurs' threat. If he thinks, I'm not worried about them, or I'm not too worried about them, Partey will be the only central midfielder, and they'll play 5 attacking players ahead of him, which will be really bold. Goes against what we're saying with unders, but the reason we're going unders is that neither team are functioning brilliantly going forward. We can all see that with our eyes.
If he's the same opinion of Mark with that QPR show, then he's definitely going to play over the character next time. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. We'll find out.
If you see us playing Everton off the park in the first 45 minutes on Tuesday night, you'd agree with me. Wonderful football. Not even our best.
Hoops are going up.
Midfield playing.
Steady
on, Adrian.
You're still kind of falling on that West London pecking order, but we'll get onto that some other time. All right, Leeds and West Ham is the last game we're going to cover, and Mark O'Hare will talk to you about this one first of all. Let's take a look at the betting as we have it at matchbook.com. Leeds winless, of course, through 5 games. You can back them at home here at 3.0. The Hammers at 2.44. The draw available at 3.75. Leeds getting a quarter of a goal start on the Asian handicap of 1.88 and 3, which is the same total. When I remember last season, every Ellen Road game is 3 and a slightly shade towards the under. But that goal expectancy is dropping because Leeds goals have been dropping. Mark O'Hare, though, you're thinking there might be value in maybe not the 3, but a different total.
Yeah, this should be fun. 2 teams who play football progressively and proactively and I'm expecting entertainment. I'm expecting goals. I think the goal line's fair enough. We can get over 2 3/4 goals at a decent price, which is what I'd be nominating here. When I originally looked at these prices, I thought I wanted to get Leeds on side in some way. I think they're a big price, but then you sort of do a bit more digging. The bottom for expected points, and then you start looking at their suspension and injury issues as well. And that to field a bit of a reshuffled defence against Newcastle. Well, the same issues apply this weekend as well. And I think Luke Ayling might be added to that list as well. I think he was a 4th centre-back option who played against Newcastle. He is a major doubt. Harrison's missing as well. Rafinha as well as a major doubt as well. So some really key issues there against Leeds, both defensively and going forward too. But they'll continue to play in the same manner. We saw the game against Newcastle, which was just tremendous fun, that first 45 minutes. How it ended 1-1, I don't know, but 16 shots on target in that match. And there's been 17 goals in their opening 5 games. 3 of them have won overs. 4 of them have seen both teams scoring. Yet to keep a clean sheet. I can't see them keeping a clean sheet here against the West Ham team, who have been very threatening going forwards. We talked about the absence of Antonio, but I know it was a deflected goal, but they still managed to to cause United a few issues last week, and their 5 games have featured 18 goals. 4 of them have gone over 2.5, and 4 of them have seen both teams scoring as well. Still, Ben Rama's really impressing me this season. Bowen's there. Fornals is playing some good football too. So they've got the ability to hurt an understrength Leeds team. They're sitting third in terms of non-penalty XG generated so far. So yeah, I think West Ham have also got that set-piece strength as well. They scored more goals from set pieces than anyone else last season. Leeds conceded more than anyone else as well. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out where Leeds could be undermanned this weekend. So overs paid out in 14 of West Ham's 21 away games going back to the start of last season. I think it's got a great chance of copying again. So yeah, I'll be looking at West Ham now off a 0 Asian handicap start, as well as over 2 3/4 goals. Potentially, if you want to marry something up, there's something to be done there. But those were the 2 angles I kind of pinpointed for this one.
Adrian, Clarke, what do you think of their goals as well for you?
Yeah, it's pretty clear that when you look at the form book, it screams end-to-end game, doesn't it? I think with Leeds, with so many players at the back out injured, attack will be the best form of defence in some regards. There's no point that they don't sit back anyway, but they want to be playing in West Ham's half as often as possible. And I think that will be in Bielsa's mind here. Hopefully, from their point of view, Rafinha will be fit because I think he's a key man. But look, Dan James is available, isn't he now? And I think he will star for Leeds as the season progresses. Patrick Bamford, I think, is playing well without scoring a lot. I think this could be a game where he comes alive. So no, I think this will be end to end. And look, West Ham are a better all-round team than Leeds, but I don't think you can look at their defence and say it's watertight. A few cracks last weekend, obviously, albeit against Manchester United, but could easily have conceded 5 goals on home turf when you think about the chances United had and the penalty shouts. And West Ham on the road to the better teams last year, away to the top 10, only kept clean sheets in 2 of them. So, in a great season, they still didn't go away from home and shut up shop and keep clean sheets for fun. So it's just not really what they are. So no, I liked both teams to score, but it's way too short to back on this podcast. So for me, it has to be the over 2 3/4. I do believe in that happening. I can see it being a cracker. 2-2 perhaps.
Yeah, 1.78 currently. You can back over 2 3/4. Yeah, like the angle, gentlemen. Very much like the angle. Let's do a quick recap before we get to the latter stages. So yeah, that game over 2 3/4 at 1.8 at matchbook.com. Let's go in reverse. Arsenal Tottenham under 2.5 at 1.85. Manchester United to win and over 2.5 goals, 2.0. And let's take a small bet on the draw in Chelsea and Man City at 3.3 and under 2.5 is currently available at 1.8. That's our bigger bet there. Before we leave the Premier League games, commenting from Tom Davies, the Courtineers are playing in Manchester later on. That's why the Manchester United game is at 12:30. Thank you for that, Tom. And I had to Google it. I'll be honest. I had to Google the Courtineers. I'm not
the Courtineers. I mean, where are they playing?
Old Trafford.
There's not going to be that many people turning up for the gig, are they? I mean, surely there's a big gig in Manchester. Surely there's a big gig in Manchester every weekend, right?
Maybe it's the cricket Old Trafford across the road.
That could be true. See? Yeah, that might be.
There's surely some. Anyway, thank you for that.
Late September, outside on the cricket pitch. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure.
No, but yeah, I don't see why you would put a Premier League game forward. They're not the Rolling Stones, so let's move on. AC Coventry, a really good start this year. I think their best opening game spell since the inaugural Premier League season, or what was called Premiership back then. They're 1.77 laying 3/4 of goal handicap start against Peterborough. Peterborough haven't been great.
No, well, Peterborough were really good at home in the last game, winning 3-0 against Birmingham. But their home form and their away form couldn't really be too different. Some of the individuals within Peterborough's team have been great at London Road, and on the road have looked really dodgy, particularly in the fullback positions. They've lost every game. Peterborough on the road, battered, weren't they, at Sheffield United just a couple of weeks ago. It's a problem. I think being without the ball on the road is not good for them at the moment, and they've got injury problems. Jack Marriott is out for 5 months. Really gutted for him. And Johnson Clarke Harris, as we speak, I think it's being announced whether he's going to be banned for some historical social media posts. So I think the likelihood, I believe, is that, or the expectancy is that he probably will be banned. That leaves them really light up front. So look, Coventry minus 3/4 a goal. Coventry, by the way, perfect record at the Rico since returning. 4 wins from 4 in the league. They did lose a cup game there, but yeah, 4 from 4 in the league. And I just think this is a home game that they'll absolutely be targeting 3 points in against a depleted Peterborough. And look, if they win by 1, we get our money back on half of the bet, don't we? And then if they win, we win on the other side. So for me, that's the bet here. They're too short to back on their own.
I will say that's actually 1.81. I did up that banner maybe about a half an hour pre-recording. It has drifted to 1.81. So AC, because I like you, you're getting the 1.81. No further discussion. A price that hasn't moved is Salford against Northampton, BTS no 1.79. The game last weekend, was Salford involved in that against Tranmere as well?
Yes,
that was
yes.
No? Yeah.
It worked for us last weekend. Yeah, it worked for us. It was a winner. Was that on my column? I think it was on the Insights column. I mean, both teams had a red card, really harsh red cards. But Salford have got problems. They're not playing well. The metrics are good, but they're not creating great opportunities. Having enough shots and whatnot, loads of the ball, but their finishing and their ability to create lots of chances. For a team that spent so much money on constructing their squad, it's shameful, really. They're really struggling. And just one of 5 Salford home games so far has featured more than 2 goals. So there you can see what it's been like at that stadium, at the Peninsula. As for Northampton, every away game, 4 away games so far has been under 2 goals, or 2 goals and under. None of them have featured both teams to score. In their 4 away games, Northampton, there's been a grand total of 3 goals. So when they go away under John Brady, they're solid. Not that exciting. Forwards haven't really clicked, but they're hard to break down. So match it all together, I see a low-scoring game. I'm going to go for both teams to score no. You could alternatively go with under 2.25, but yeah, it worked for me last weekend with Salford, so I'm going there again.
It did, and I had them in the under 3.5 at AC. And when I saw those red cards, I was like, there's less people on the field. Hey, why isn't the Salford game moved early? This is a game.
You used to share with me your thoughts on these under 3.5 ACCAs. Now you're keeping it all to yourself. What's that all about?
I'm not totally sure.
Do you know what it is? That's selfish, Sally.
That is selfish, especially when I'm taking them off your stuff. So it's very selfish. Yeah. Basically,
we need to share. We need to share our thoughts.
Fair enough. But yeah, again, I can't believe this game is on at 3 p.m. The game in Old Trafford can't be on 3 p.m. Anyway, let's move on. Norwegian BTS double. Mark, I would have put out the banner for this, but Stavanger, Bodo Glimt, who else we got? Molde, and I'm missing one team. Who are the other team that are involved here? Vålerenga.
Yes. Yeah, so there's been quite a lot of midweek action in mainland, or the major leagues in Europe, and some of those rounds haven't completed yet on Thursday. So I don't want to, it's going to take me a bit more time to sort of review everything that's happened midweek. So I've gone away from the mainstream, and there's a bit of deja vu about it this week, because the 4 teams involved last week are actually playing again this week in the same sort of matches. So we've got a BTDS double 2.1 with the Viking against Bodo and Vålerenga against Molde. Curiously, this weekend we've got Bodo hosting Vålerenga and Molde welcoming Viking. So 2 games covering the same form teams, and BTDS double is 2.45. Obviously, the pre-game favourites were away last week. This time they're at home. But I'm not put off. I think the price is good enough to get involved again, because Vålerenga and Viking, the 2 underdogs, have delivered both teams to score in 16 of their 19 league games each. And together, they've scored in 34 of their 38 combined league games this season and kept just 2 clean sheets. And those matches have combined to average 3.47 goals. We talked last week about all these kind of numbers and statistics. I know it's quite boring to listen to, but the Norwegian top flight is averaging 3.11 goals per game. 62% of matches have featured both teams scoring. I just think there's value in doubling these 2 up. They're both pretty short prices. There's an argument to have that the prices should be even shorter than they already are. because as we've talked about at the top of the show, Norwegian football, or at least the elites are in, is all about attacking, scoring goals and outgunning your opposition. These 4 teams particularly take a front foot approach, even if you look at the underlying metrics, XG, and everything else that goes in between. Particularly Viking, their matches have been absolutely outrageous. So I think they're at 3.9 goals per game. So yeah, really looking forward to this weekend. The title race is really on. Just 1 point between Molde and Bodo. But yeah, as I said, Viking and Vålerenga will not take a backward step and put on a decent show, even as away teams. So 2.45 is the double for BTTS.
Yeah, and you can check those out on insights.matchbook.com, and top marks for the Norwegian pronunciation, and they're tricky, some of those ones. But you absolutely nailed it. Adrian, Clarke, best bet of the weekend. Where are you going?
One of the unders. I mean, Chelsea City is a very strong unders bet, but for me, the best bet is the North London derby to end in a low-scoring affair. So yeah, under 2.5. Arsenal Spurs. I don't see this one being an end-to-end thriller.
Mark, go here. Pick it up from there, because you got a double here, and it involves that game as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's room on this bus if you want to get on board, Adrian. Under 3.5 goals, double.
Under 3.5. There you go.
See, Mark's including me, Sally. You see, he's including me. That's good to see.
I'm taking note. I got to text you afterwards. I will.
Plenty of space if you want to get on board. Under 3.5 goals, double. City, Chelsea, and Arsenal Spurs. We've made the case for under 2.5 goals in both games, but you can double both up and get a 1.8 shot, which I think is very appealing. Obviously, gets you a little bit more on side. See, when you're backing under 2.5 goals, it can be a nervous watch, but hopefully under 3.5 makes it a little less tension involved.
You know, we'll do their AC. We'll take Salford and Northampton under 3.5 as well, and we'll put that in. We'll get about 2.2, 2.3.
I like the sound of that. Yeah.
And I'll find a few more for you over the
weekend. That's teamwork. That is. Yeah,
that is teamwork. All together like this. Love it. All right, guys. A lot of fun again this week, as ever. Hopefully, we've guided you in the direction of some winners. Don't forget, you can check out insights.matchbook.com for a full recap of this podcast in terms of our bets and the NFL and weekend racing. And we'll be back as well on Monday for Champions League. Until next Wednesday, best of luck with your bets this weekend. Good games, some really good games this week. And we will chat to you next week. Bye for now.